everybody for being on this webinar today. We are going to talk about feeding the content monster. So in today's webinar, we are going to talk a little bit about what content PR is, why it's important to your organization, the 5 do's and don'ts to feeding the content monster, and a new introduction to digital magazines and how you can really use them to, again, really forward your brand, forward your business. So it's important to really understand what content PR is when we talk about feeding the content monster. And so I like to break down the 2 different words. So PR is really creating and maintaining all of the relationships that an organization needs to survive. And that would include organizations with clients, with potential customers, with manufacturers, with other brands that they need in order to be successful. And content is really just simply the text, visual, or sound items, you think like videos, that people encounter when they're on the internet. And so when you place them together, content PR is specifically crafted items that provide value to those relationships that you're trying to build. The whole entire focus of content PR, again, is to build those relationships of trust that your company and that your brand need to be successful. And content PR is important for a number of reasons. Firstly, it establishes your organization's influence. In today's day and age, it is especially important with the millions of articles going up and all of the messages that are out online today to establish your organization's influence in your industry and in your brand. And content PR helps you to do that. It also provides additional value to current and potential future customers by showing them that you are not only an influencer and knowledgeable about your industry, but it also provides that trust that you are really caring and there to help them. And lastly, it gives your organization power as publisher. So the interesting thing is, Mark Reagan of Reagan Communications recently talked about how PR is really starting to turn digital media and social media on its head by basically allowing brands to become their own publishers. And the power within that is now it's not only the case that you go and pitch your ideas and your brands to traditional publishers like newspapers, like magazines. While that's still vitally important, and we'll discuss that a little bit later, content PR allows you another form and another venue to have clients and customers and other influentials see your items, see your influence without having to get those articles published. And so now, with an understanding of what content PR is and why it's important to your brand and to your business, we're going to talk about 5 do's and don'ts of feeding the monster. So, number 1, you definitely don't just want to sell, sell, sell. With all of the messages like we talked about on the internet today, people are getting better and better at tuning things out. They really don't like sales messages, and they're getting really, really good at ignoring it. And the thing that I like to say is you kind of bring this to real life. When you're building a relationship with somebody, even if it is a potential customer or a potential partner, you don't simply start selling them as soon as you walk up to them. You think of a network party, and it's the same thing online and with your content. So ways that you can kind of get around this idea of just sell, sell, sell is asking yourself how your customers and your partners can use your products and services and kind of show them how that can be done within your content, within your blogs, within your posts. You can post parallel industry information. This is really great if there's trends going on in the news or other things that are very pertinent to your industry. So if, let's just say, you're a law office, the recent case with Hobby Lobby in the Supreme Court is a great thing to post and to talk about how Obamacare can affect businesses and what this means moving forward to small businesses. So keeping an eye on the news and to put in your thoughts and how this affects really adds that value without selling. Inspiration, using quotes and photos, which we'll talk a little bit more in a couple of minutes about. That's always a really great thing and can lighten things up, along with, lastly, humor. As long as it's appropriate to your brand and it fits your brand tone, using humor is another way to lighten things up while still allowing people to remember you in sort of a soft way, not a hard sell again. A good thing to remember is a good social media account has 20% company content and 8% other content, and that's all of what we just talked about. Having that parallel information, having inspiration, having how your product or service can be used. That's all really, really wonderful, and when you think about it, 20% is actually pretty small, and that's the best way to use social media, to really have your customers understand and then go forth and talk about you and your brand. So conversely, the do then to feeding this monster is to really learn what your customer wants. That is achieved through listening and monitoring your customer conversations, which guaranteed are happening as we speak. You can go onto Twitter or onto Facebook and search for these conversations happening, keeping in mind that not all of them are going to be on your brand's page. In fact, many of them are not going to be. You can use tools such as Social Mention, Hootsuite, Sprout Social to search for keywords and to search for phrases to find these conversations. And monitoring is not only a good idea to protect your brand, to see what they're specifically talking about in regards to you, but also to see the comments and the questions and the concerns that they have, because those are the very things you can write about that will give them value. You can also ask them outright, and this can be done through post, asking questions on Facebook or on Twitter or on Google+, going into communities, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, and asking them. You can also do email surveys or website opinion polls, but we stress that this is used sparingly so as not to fatigue website visitors and people that sign up for emails and for newsletters. So again, you want to be gathering the information, but also keeping in mind what people are going to give willingly and not get fatigued by it. But lastly, the important thing is to remember that you don't always know what the customer wants. I like to think about the 80s in this sort of a sense with Crystal Pepsi, and what a glorious and yet nightmarish time that was. Recently, within the last probably 3 to 5 years, Coke actually redesigned some of its products. It redesigned the can for Diet Coke and thought that this was going to be a really wonderful thing. Ended up not doing enough product testing with the brand, and the sales ended up taking. People did not want the new look. They were used to the certain look of the can of Coke, and not asking them and not really monitoring these conversations actually proved quite costly, quite a costly brand decision. And so this can be avoided by really going out and seeking this information first. The second don't to feeding the monster is don't bait and switch, or what I like to call bait and click. Now, baiting and switching can be done through misleading headlines, by doing things like, but wait, there's more. You can see a funny example from one of my friends here. Now, he's completely joking, but unfortunately, there are several headlines that actually do this. And it's not just contained within the infomercials. He said, I earned $6 working just a 90-minute walk from my home. Ask me how I found this path to riches. And again, of course, he's joking, but there is truth in that. When you make a headline or an article sound spammy, or worse yet, when you make an article or a headline sound really great, and once they click through, they realize the content within it is nothing more than what you see here in this Facebook post, it damages your reputation. Then you're much less likely to have the same people click through and read your items in the future. This is also happening through random keywords. A lot of people, especially hashtags, so sharing tweets out or sharing things out on Facebook or Google+, and just hashtagging a bunch of popular trending terms that have nothing to do with your content is actually, like I said, damaging to your brand, because people are really looking for what the headline says. They're really looking for truth in the advertising behind it. And honestly, a lot of this stuff, a lot of hashtagging and random keywords and writing the headlines takes a lot of time. And so the argument here is, if you're going to take time to go ahead and do this, you can probably take time to just write the good content that will really show people your value and your opinions. So ultimately, another word about headlines is you really want to balance them. So we have on one end of the spectrum BuzzFeed and the other end the New Yorker, two pretty separate things. And I posted two quite recent headlines. We have from BuzzFeed, 29 sweaty celebs that will make you feel 1,000,000 times better about the heat. Now, of course, if you're not writing about celebrities, you're not writing something jokey, you're not really going to write a headline like this. But you also don't want to write something like, the 5 top 10 amazing ShamWow pieces of content marketing that will make you feel like $1,000,000. You want to balance it out to be a little bit more professional, a little bit more valuable, fit the tone of your business, while at the other hand, not going over to the New Yorker side of being super stuffy, of being super something that people really wouldn't want to read as they're clicking through, and they only have the 5 or 10 minutes. And again, this balance changes with every industry and with the goals of your company. But it's always a good thing to remember. Balance in general is what you want. So the opposite then of the bait and click is optimizing your content. Optimizing is a really great thing, especially when you do it in context of content PR. Those keywords are really helpful things. The interesting thing to note, however, is if you think of normal search behaviors, think of all the screenshots of funny Google searches, for example, usually people don't use just keywords. They use key phrases. So an interesting thing to help in monitoring and finding these conversations is not only searching for keywords on things like Twitter or Google+, but searching for key phrases. So for example, if you're a car dealership, searching for a group of words or a couple of sentence phrases or a sentence together that says, used cars, used Toyota cars under this many miles, etc., will help you to locate those conversations even more quickly and even more easily, and they will be even more relevant to you. The other thing with optimizing your content is to remember to be timely and to be aware. I think we can all remember the Oreos tweet that went out during the Super Bowl, and that was lauded as the winning Super Bowl tweet, the winning Super Bowl branding experience, still looked at today. And the wonderful thing to realize is that Oreo actually didn't use any hashtags. They didn't use any hashtags at all in their tweet. They had spent the time to build up their community and to build up their content PR and to make it so timely and so relevant to what was going on with such a great branding example of don't worry, you can still dunk in the dark, that everybody loved it. And being timely is so key on social media. While at the same time, being aware can help you avoid things like tweeting during a tragedy. Some brand experience, or accidentally mistaking a trend for something you can jump into when it's probably something you want to stay away from. The good kind of rule of thumb to measure yourself against is Kenneth Cole. You don't want to be Kenneth Cole. Kenneth Cole likes to purposely tweet under under political things, and he'll throw in his branding experience, and it really makes people very upset. And actually, I think dings them a little bit more than it helps. He had tweeted and fell under fire for doing this about the conflict in Egypt, and then later the conflict in Syria. And so, again, it's always an important thing to be aware of what's going on while you're being timely, because things will pop up all of the time, and it's important to kind of adjust your content as world things happen and as nation things happen. The third thing to remember to feeding the content monster is don't spam. Now, this is something that I would like to think everybody kind of has, that we know by now that spamming is not a good thing. At best, it annoys people, and they'll just kind of tune you out. Moving up the scale, it'll anger people, and they're really not going to like you, and they're probably going to tell you that or talk about you on other parts of social media, which is just not helping anything. At worst, they're going to actually turn away from your company and not want to buy anything. A really great example of this I've seen actually in the last few days, a lot of threads on Facebook, so conversations that are happening. And the wonderful thing about social media is you can jump into any of these conversations, which we'll talk about in just 1 minute, but these conversations that are happening, you don't want to jump in and just say, oh, and here's my website. It's almost equivalent to jumping into the middle of a network party, of a conversation in a network party, and just, pushing your business card right in somebody's face. And that's just not actually going to win you any sort of further movement in relationships. It actually will get you the latter. The interesting thing, however, is that a lot of companies don't realize the lines between sometimes spamming and providing value. And so an important thing to ask yourself as you're posting is, am I spamming? So are you spamming, or are you really providing value? Is this really something that my clients or my partners or my fans want to hear about? Or is this simply something that I'm posting just because I want to talk about my brand? And now that's couched within, of course, you want to talk about your brand, you want to talk about major landmarks, you also want to talk about product launches and other exciting news, but you can also ask yourself, that's generally stuff that your fans would want to know about as well. If you launch a new product, that's something that everybody wants to know about. So it's always a good thing to ask yourself that. Conversely then, become involved. So going back to the example of the networking party, you're not going to shove your business card up in somebody's face as soon as you go and enter a conversation, but instead you want to ask about them. You want to get to know them, which we talked about earlier. And then you actually want to become involved. You want to be part of the conversation so people can realize how wonderful you are and how knowledgeable you are about the industry and the items that you're talking about. On this screen right now is a really great example between Burger King and Jeep. Now, they were both hacked a little while ago. It was a big ordeal. They had to shut down their accounts on Twitter. And after everything was righted, they had full control of the accounts. Everything was fine. Burger King tweeted out to Jeep, glad everything is back to normal. And not too long later, Jeep responded back, thanks, BK. Let us know if you want to grab a burger and swap stories. We'll drive. And it was such a wonderful thing. You can see how many times it's been retweeted and favorited. A lot of people responded to that. Both Burger King and Jeep actually had gained a lot of followers. And this was a great way, of course, for Jeep to kind of slide in. Hey, you bring the food, we'll drive. A nice kind of branding thing. But it was a nice way to get involved between two companies that normally wouldn't have anything to say to one another. So these partnerships and sharing with your partners is something that any brand and any organization can do. Sometimes it takes a little bit of thinking outside of the box, but something as simple as asking, is there a new product that we have in our store, or a new service that we're really enjoying, that we want to post about on Facebook and that we want to tag the company in, or going on their Facebook page and just commenting how much you like this. Those mutual sharing opportunities between partners, especially retail partners, can be very, very valuable. And their fans will also see that as well. So it just increases your exposure. You can offer advice and join in the conversation. This is, again, easily accomplished by going on other pages, by balancing, again, not spamming, but becoming involved, by entering into conversations on Twitter. Lots of times, if you use keywords and you use keyword searches and you find people, for example, if you're the car dealership and you find somebody looking for a used Toyota that is bright red and has air conditioning, you can go ahead and jump in and start a conversation with them in real time right over Twitter, and you can show that you're paying attention. Lastly, there's a lot of groups and communities, especially in LinkedIn and in Google+, that are very, very focused on a plethora of different topics. So if, for example, you are a counseling service, there are a lot of communities and groups that exist around mental health, around depression, around marriage and family relationships and services. And those are all ways that you can not only get additional information and really see what people are looking for, but you can also have conversations and forward your brand as well. So becoming involved is always a great thing. The fourth item that you shouldn't do to feed the content monster is overthink it. I don't know if you guys ever feel this way, but sometimes I do, and it's not a great thing to feel this way. Sometimes we just get so involved and so overwhelmed as brands and as brand advocates or company owners about thinking what we're going to post and thinking of a strategy that we just can't even start. And that's really the thing that's going to be damaging. Or we start and we just get frustrated way too quickly. It helps to set up a goal and have a set of goals that kind of range from an overall vision down to how you're going to get this done. So I put up a campaign goal, monthly goals, weekly goals, and daily goals. And it's always really great to just have, what we would call in PR a campaign goal. So, your entire advertising campaign, or your entire, if you're a nonprofit, 6 months push to find new donor opportunities, new funding opportunities. And underneath that, then you would have specific monthly goals and weekly goals and even daily goals for doing something like, what are we going to post on Facebook? What are our goals on Twitter this week? What are we going to do with Instagram? What sort of pictures are we going to share on Pinterest? And having these sort of goals and these guidelines will really help not to overthink it. And going along with that, these goals will help you to set a schedule and strive for consistency. So just as you don't want to overthink it, you do want to make sure that you're being consistent. One of these, we just talked about all these goals in the last slide. You want all these goals to be SMART goals. So you want all of these goals to be specific, measurable, achievable, results-focused, and time-bound. And that may be overwhelming to some, but honestly, it's as easy as doing something like, well, I want more Facebook followers, and really saying, well, what do I want from this? I want to build relationships with people that could become volunteers for my nonprofit. Or I want to actually have more website visits so that I can sell more of our great new cans of tomato soup. whatever it may be. So you have these goals, and to make them smart, then they're very specific in order to get these done. You measure them, and you measure them through certain results. And so that goes into using social media analytics, using Facebook Insights, really seeing then where your likes on Facebook and your comments on your posts translate into your website visits. You make sure that they're time-bound, so it's not just squishy. You really want goals to be set up, and you really want it to be achievable. And so a lot of great things are a great thing to do for a lot of people wanting to, for example, do a blog, is to set a goal of having, okay, we're going to post twice a week, and that is going to be our goal. We're going to try really hard to post every Tuesday and every Thursday. And we know that we can do this. We're going to set this, and then this is how we're going to share it out. That way you're not overwhelmed. And you can also follow it up by the second item, which is getting ahead of the game. Usually when you're started, you can go ahead and use scheduling tools like Hootsuite or CrowdBooster, things like that. You can go ahead and write some of the blog posts ahead of time. So if you have 3 or 5 blog posts already queued up, that will give you a little bit of breathing room to go ahead and decide what you're going to write the next week and the week after. And if you're on vacation one of the weeks, you know that you have a post that is ready to fill in. But all in all, when you set your schedule and when you really strive to be consistent, you want to think both short-term and long-term. So definitely the short term of growing and building these relationships, but also remembering that relationships take time. They take time and they take a lot of investment. And so the long-term goals are going to be integral for you to decide as a brand and as a company how to translate that so that it ultimately impacts your bottom line. And finally, the last don't to defeating the content monster is don't become a machine. One of the things that I like to share with people is that people do business with companies they know, they like, and they trust. And so the question you really have to ask yourself as a brand and as a company is, how do people trust me? How will they trust me? And that really comes from showing your human side. No offense to robots or to machines, but it comes from really engaging with people, really showing them that you're listening. So all of those tips that we gave before, really showing that you're listening, really showing that you care, really showing that you have a personality and a company culture. And that sort of company culture and tone changes for everything. So if you think back to the headline example, the company culture and tone of BuzzFeed is dramatically different for that of the New Yorker. And that is completely fine. We wouldn't expect the New Yorker to be BuzzFeed. In fact, that would really upset a lot of the New Yorker readers. But conversely, the New Yorker readers are most likely not interested in reading BuzzFeed. And it's very, very important to let that culture show through, to let that tone show through so that you can find the right people who are really wanting to be involved in your business, use your products, use your services, and ultimately grow to trust you, to love you, and to be loyal to your company. One of the ways that you cannot become a machine and really show your personality is to be visual. So I put some stats up here. Facebook posts usually have 2 times more comments than with pictures. Facebook posts with images usually have 2 times more comments than just textual posts. And that doesn't even include then the number of people who share and who like them, which is even more than 2 times on average. Pinterest can generate more revenue than Twitter, up to 4 times more revenue, actually. Now, this was a study done in 2012, and those numbers are continuing to grow. They're showing that Pinterest users actually will buy more, that their transactions are almost double that of transactions through Facebook. And it's really the power of visual and getting those people together that really want your product and your services. And it all makes sense when you really think about that 90% of the information translated into your brain is visual anyway. No wonder people like infographics so much, or pretty pictures, or an image of the product, or a video of the product being used. They most likely don't want to just hear about it, or most likely don't want to just read about it. They also want to see it. They want to see how it's going to work. They want to see it in a nice picture, and they want to envision themselves using it as well. Now, being visual is a nice thing as well to spice up your post. So if you're sharing a variety of articles and you're asking questions and you're also putting up, let's just say, quotes, that's an easy thing to, for example, add a picture to the quote and to make it nice, or to really highlight something that is happening in your office today, and putting a quote by, it's our casual Friday, and this is what we're doing. What do you guys like to do on Friday? Always a great thing to mix it up and to be more visual. The Twitter platform is really highlighting that with offering GIFs now in tweets, as well as Twitter pictures. Facebook has redesigned their timeline to be a little bit, honestly, more like Google Plus, which really highlights images, which kind of looks like Pinterest now, which is all pictures. So the more visual that you can be, within reason, again, keeping the tone of your company, is definitely going to be a really, really great thing. Lastly, in order to be visual, doesn't take a lot of work. It just takes some planning. You can use programs such as PicMonkey or Canva in order to help you to make easy yet professional looking items such as picture quotes or branded posts where you can show off your offerings. A lot of times having a photographer come in or getting some help that way to get some nice product pictures that you can then reuse and put in your blog post and other things are also a good thing as well. And a lot of companies are finding very much success on Instagram by going around and snapping almost everyday thing as well. So lastly, we'd like to introduce digital magazines. This is a wonderful way to kind of tie in all of these things about content PR, and especially with a nice visual punch to it. And we'd like to show you really fast today 2 magazines that we have for our clients. We have a Pretty in Pink Wedding Edition magazine from Suncrest Diamonds. They are a synthetic diamond maker. So they have actually the pink diamond that is very rare in nature. They found a way to use it using high temperature, high pressure technology, and have been able to offer it as at a more affordable price. And lastly, MBAC Systems is a DNA collection device. It actually solved a cold case that was about 18 years old in Salt Lake City by getting the DNA off of a rock that no other system was able to collect. And so we have CSI Forensic Science News for MBAC. And so just by showing you this really quickly, you can see how Flipboard works. So we have the Pretty in Pink Wedding Edition, and we wanted to show you these because they're 2 very different things to show that Flipboard can really do the variety. You can see up here in the upper left-hand corner, we have the magazine description. We have a nice branded thing of the Suncrest Diamonds logo. You can see that they do have a lot of readers and a lot of page flips. And as you flip through, this is almost a lookbook. Ideas, articles, and other options for the wedding goer, the person planning weddings. We have, this is wedding season and engagement season. So a lot of good articles about that. Even articles like this, Think Pink, How to Achieve Summer's Amped Up Pink Lips. Which the question begs is, what does this have to do with diamonds? It has to do with the fact that you're offering all of this content in order to show this is how you can be fashionable. And also, if you look right here, there's a nice sun-pressed diamond necklace. So sprinkled throughout is this roughly 20% content of beautiful pictures of the actual items. So here are all these wonderful things you can do. Here's a lot of ideas to make your wedding even prettier, or your everyday outfit a little bit more bright, along with some diamonds as well. On the other side of things, we have Forensic Science News. So this is a magazine that is geared a lot more towards professionals. MBAC is used specifically in crime labs, but it is useful to law enforcement agencies as well as district attorneys. And you can see here there are a lot of articles that is everything that's happening in the forensic science world today. So cold cases, a lot of things of, you can see here a forensics breakthrough in dating fingerprints, verdicts that come out, and you can see here in the bottom right corner we have again the nice brand offering of the MBAC system. You can see up here there's a this was the cold case we were talking about, so we can even flip articles or blog posts or even social media posts directly from that client, which is really, really great. So if they posted something, a great video from YouTube, we found that it actually gets them a lot more viewers to their YouTube videos. It's a really great way to share with other people that the thought is out here, that this is a really big influencer in this field, as well as getting more people to learn about the actual brand in its entirety. What we've found actually with the Flipboard magazines, we use the Flipboard platform in order to do that, and then we brand them specially for every single client, is not only do they showcase brand offerings, so like I was showing and saying a minute ago, it can do this with blogs, with any of the products or services, with videos like you would have on YouTube or on the website, any social media post. We can even flip tweets in there. So it's a really great way to kind of conglomerate brand offerings. It provides content for posting then. So not only are the magazines a really great way to showcase the brand, but we can go ahead and give them to our clients and say, if you would like to use this article today and posting on Facebook and talking about this wonderful new trend in wedding jewelry, or this wonderful trend that's happening to convict cold cases, to close up cold cases. This is a great thing for you to gain even more trust. And so it makes it a lot easier for brands to find content. And lastly, it increases both just the general influence and website traffic. We have found for a lot of our clients that use these digital magazines that they actually, Flipboard is within the top 10 of website traffic referrals. So people are actually clicking through and they want to find out more. And they're looking at their offerings and they're looking at the other kind of things. So it's a really, really unique, new, and wonderful way of feeding this content monster.
And we appreciate everyone attending today, and want to invite you to come back at a future date for a future webinar with Tomer PR. And until then, we'll wish you a happy digital day.